I'm Jacob Ferguson, and this is a short video on the influence of design in subcultures. I've heard it said before that there can be no design without art and no art without design. But both of these are kind of limited to places and cultures who are living in excess. What I mean by that is places or times of war, people tend to focus on the necessities of life: food, shelter, clothing, and they're not really going to go spend lots of money on a painting or a chair that costs more than a car, or the food that they really need to nourish themselves or the kids. An example of this would be the time of the Third Reich in Germany, when they really used propaganda to influence and to manipulate the people into living and being and behaving how they wanted them to, and they got rid of all other forms of artwork or design that did not fit or support their agenda. So it's really only in times of freedom or when the people have the means to, that they can really live how they want to and that they can express themselves. And through this act of expression or art, people are able to kind of separate themselves into different groups or in cultures, and really to live and to express themselves how they want to, showing their identity or their personality or their taste or their status or their education. So the way things tend to work in these cultures of excess is that people tend to create pieces of art or a one-off product, and others are influenced by that, or they see it and say that resonates with me, that supports exactly how I feel, the way I believe, my views, my opinions. And eventually, if there's enough demand for that piece of artwork or that expression, that's when it becomes commercialized, and that's when design comes into play and really is able to get that expression out to the people. A great example of artwork being commercialized and brought out to the people is music. Music also being a massive influencer in subcultures. If you think of bands like Pink Floyd, Nirvana helping create the grunge scene, or the band The Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead has such a massive following. The fans are called Deadheads, and they have the Dead Bears, which are today still collector's items. And that all originated really from the album artwork from Bob Thomas, and that was, redesigned and marketed and to create and to help create these subcultures. And other bands, for example, like NWA in the rap scene. Another example is the Insane Clown Posse. Basically, one of the artists at one of the concerts called the crowd juggalos, and the fans became known as juggalos, and design of the posters and the videos and the clothing and the makeup helped get that out to create another subculture and of juggalos. And it even became such a big subculture that in 2011 the FBI initiated juggalos as a gang in one of their assessments. Of course, there are tons of other mediums that have helped create other subcultures. One of those being magazines. Of course, there's tons and tons of magazines. A very famous and criticized magazine, Playboy Magazine, has helped create really a subculture of men who wanted to live like a playboy or a bachelor. The magazine focused on streamlined design, leisure, luxury, wealth, and has helped create a community of men who want to live like that. Other art movements, for example, pop art. Pop art became was created between the 50s and the 60s, and kind of became popular during the late 50s or early 60s, and was really a movement of artists who were tired of the abstract expressionism artwork that came after the war. And they just wanted to be more playful, use more color. They didn't want it to be so abstract or philosophical like the artists who were doing work directly after the war. And that became such a hit, such a subculture that you can still see that the effects or the design of pop art in people's homes today, and posters and furniture everywhere. Of course, businesses found out a long time ago if they were to find role models or personas that people really tend to look up to, that was a great way to reach these niches or these subcultures with their products. So if you think about companies like Nike footwear or sport clothing, it's a high-end sport clothing company that has really succeeded in taking famous or well-known athletes as role models and reaching their target group with their products. Tons of other companies have adopted this strategy. Bicycle companies, beer companies, car companies. Car companies have helped create such subgenres that people will literally fight you if you say something wrong about their car or their car company. We are now living in a very postmodern world where the possibilities of subcultures are never ending. Basically, in a postmodern world, everything is kind of a mishmash and possible. And we even have something called alternative culture, which is basically like a subculture of a subculture, and it just never stops. And so I guess some of the most recent or the most well-known ones that you would know of from recent times would be the hipster movement or minimalistics or veganism. As silly as it may seem to some people, that is kind of our job as designers. We are to help companies reach these niches or subcultures or alternative cultures of people with their products. Our job is basically to communicate using design, the belief systems, the values, the core strengths, the worth, and we are to create a trust system. The best thing that can happen to a company is that they create a relationship with their consumers. So I guess that would be the question to us designers, is where do we fit in which subculture would we place ourselves? And I guess that would be the ultimate goal, is to find a company to work for, or to create our own company that can reach the subculture that you want to support yourself.